Caffeine is beloved, almost revered, a legal stimulant that sharpens our minds, perks up our mornings, and, according to emerging science, might even help us live longer. But like any compound with powerful biological effects, caffeine has a dual personality. On one hand, it activates longevity pathways like AMPK, boosts mood and metabolism, and may reduce risk for certain diseases. On the other hand, too much caffeine can take those same benefits and twist them into something far less friendly. Anxiety, insomnia, adrenal exhaustion, jittery energy crashes, elevated blood pressure, or even premature aging in sensitive individuals. The line between activation and overstimulation is surprisingly thin and often caffeinated. Let's start with the obvious: tolerance. The more regularly you consume caffeine, the less dramatic its effects become. This isn't just about subjective alertness. Your adenosine receptors, the same ones caffeine blocks to keep you awake, actually start to multiply in response to repeated antagonism. It's your brain's way of saying, "Oh, we see what you're doing here, and we don't like it." So over time, the same dose gives you less of a lift. You drink more. Your receptors adjust again. The cycle continues. Eventually, caffeine becomes less of a performance enhancer and more of a baseline requirement just to feel normal. At that point, it's less about AMPK activation and more about biological blackmail. Then there's sleep, or the lack thereof. Caffeine has a half-life of roughly 5 to 6 hours, though it can be much longer in slow metabolizers, thanks genetics. That afternoon cold brew may feel innocent in the moment, but it's still swimming through your bloodstream at midnight, whispering to your neurons, "Don't shut down yet. We've got things to think about." Even modest sleep disruption, particularly deep, slow-wave sleep, can sabotage everything caffeine was supposed to help you with: metabolic health, cognitive function, hormonal balance, and cellular repair. In fact, poor sleep raises cortisol, blunts AMPK, and promotes the exact aging processes caffeine is thought to oppose. The irony is strong with this one. Overconsumption also taxes the adrenal system. While caffeine doesn't directly stimulate adrenal hormones like synthetic stimulants do, it does indirectly increase cortisol and epinephrine, especially in stressed individuals. That's why people prone to anxiety or burnout often report that coffee makes them feel worse, not better. Heart racing, thoughts spinning, chest tight, and nerves fried. Chronic high caffeine intake can contribute to sympathetic nervous system dominance, where the body is stuck in fight-or-flight mode for far too long. And when that happens, all the fancy mitochondrial or autophagy benefits are drowned out by a tidal wave of stress hormones and inflammatory cytokines. There's also the issue of cardiovascular strain. In susceptible individuals, those with certain genetic variants, like CYP1A2 slow metabolizers, or pre-existing heart conditions, caffeine can increase blood pressure, trigger arrhythmias, and elevate homocysteine levels. For most people, moderate intake, about 200 to 400 milligrams per day, is safe and possibly beneficial. But once you climb into the range of 600 to 800 milligrams, think 4 double espressos or an energy drink habit, the risks start to outweigh the rewards. Especially if that intake is chronic and layered with other stressors like poor sleep, overtraining, or a junk-heavy diet. Even from a skin health perspective, overstimulation can backfire. Chronic stress from high caffeine exposure may increase cortisol-driven collagen breakdown, potentially accelerating skin aging. There's some evidence that excessive caffeine can reduce skin hydration or impair wound healing in certain contexts, though this is still debated. And let's not forget the indirect lifestyle effects. High caffeine often means skipped meals, poor hydration, and neglect of real rest. It can easily push a high-performance mindset into burnout mode, especially when it's masking deeper issues like fatigue, nutrient depletion, or emotional exhaustion. And yet, none of this makes caffeine a villain. Like any powerful molecule, dose and context are everything. One person's miracle molecule is another person's nervous breakdown in a cup. The key is to listen to your body. If caffeine gives you energy, mental clarity, and a sense of joyful focus, great. But if you find yourself needing more and more just to function, suffering poor sleep, or feeling on edge, it may be time to scale back. Take a caffeine holiday. Switch to decaf. Explore gentler options like green tea or herbal adaptogens. Let your body remember what natural energy feels like without a molecular cattle prod. Because in the end, Caffeine's real gift might not be in pushing us harder, but in teaching us how to balance stimulation with restoration. Used wisely, it can help light the fire of longevity. But used carelessly, it can burn us out before we even get there.